Berlin Marathon. Yes, it's been done. Here's the medal 2024. In this video, I'm going to go through quickly the good, the bad, the ugly in terms of logistics. I will cover at the beginning the expo as well, because I had such a great time. And also at the end, so you've got to watch all the way through, I'm going to talk about my personal experience, what my strategy was, and what happened throughout the race. So without further ado, let's go. Yes, look at these babies. Ooh. So basically, yes, you might see, well, you can't see in this cutting, but this is not Berlin Marathon merchandise. I bought absolutely nothing in the expo, not because it was a bad expo. It was a great expo. For me, it was organised impeccably. The one point that I would raise about the expo is, why are we forced to go through all the merchandising areas and everything just to get a bib? Yeah, in London, I think they have great organisation where you can go in at the front, get your bib and walk out. You don't have to go through the expo. I like to go through the expo and have a look. Some people may not, but everybody was being forced. I did see one particular instance of one guy wanting to go back the other way and he wasn't being permitted. But for me, logistically, everything seemed to work. I was aware that some other days it wasn't working very well. I think the systems were down, there was long queues, but for me on the Saturday afternoon, I have to stress that, it was a Saturday afternoon before the event, it was pretty smooth running for me. As I say, my experience was a good experience and I enjoyed it, whilst I was forced to go through all the merchandise. And I did resist, I didn't buy anything. I did come away with a few things. This is what I came away with, but I pre-ordered these online because it was the 50th event, 50th anniversary of the event. I wanted some commemorative stuff. So a coin, although if you look at the size of this, it was a bit bigger than a coin. It's like a medal, and the bib magnets. So those were my merch, if you could say, that I bought. But I pre-ordered those, so I just literally picked them up on the way out. But I bought absolutely nothing. So I won't go into the whys and wherefores because everybody's different. I know some people spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds, dollars, euros, and bought everything. And then there might have been people like me who probably bought absolutely nothing. I'd love to hear from you what your experience was, not just of the expo, but of Berlin Marathon. So let me know in the comments below how you got on. So let's crack on with the day itself. Yes, the day itself. So I'm going to go through the three areas because always there's the good, the bad and the ugly. So the good part, yes, the good part of the marathon. Getting to the start for me in terms of where I was near Potsdamer Platz for my hotel. So it was a walk. It was about a 30-minute walk, 20-minute walk, 30-minute walk to the start area. And then there was a long walk to get into the pens. It was great bumping into Michael Coe, aka Kafutzi, and also Matt and a number of other people that I didn't get on camera, but it was great to see you all. I left it pretty late to get into the start pen. And but that was just me. I know some people when they go to a start pen, because there was over 54,000 finishers, I believe. I don't know how many starters they were. I had heard it was 60,000, but clearly not. It was 54,000 finishers. I don't think there was 6,000 DNFs. Let me know in the comments what the number of starters were, but there's normally a very high percentage of finishers, you know, in the 98, 99%, I think, unless it was Boston Marathon 2018, but that's another story. But for me, getting to the start was great, easy. Yes, as I scratch my nose, yes, it was very busy. Yes, it was very crowded. Yes, there was park areas where there was people doing all sorts of stuff in there. For me personally, I had, was it four? Yeah. 4 toilets interventions, shall we say, before getting to the start area. So 2 at the hotel and 2 in the event village. So I'd done all my stuff before I started to go to the pen. So that might be something to bear in mind. And I do appreciate, again, people's nerves, anxieties and also it can cause all sorts of things. But for me personally, I didn't need to go into the woods or whatever. There were toilets Portaloos in the start area, close to the start area. I couldn't see, yes, there was queues, but you just queue and wait to get in. So if you felt like going for a pee, you go in the queue or go into the bush. I didn't see any of the other things which I think some people said was a bit unsavoury, but for me, I had a good experience getting to the start. And also being in that pen, the vibe, the excitement, the enthusiasm, it was quite incredible, really. And all I can say, it was brilliant. So that's the good part. Yeah. You want to know the bad, don't you? Yeah. The bad part of the organisation, obviously being so big, I think in terms of logistics, I did quickly find out that the start pen I was in, the time I was aiming for, around 3 hours, I was put into the C pen. Now, whilst there were people around the 3 hours in my pen, and there was pacers in the C pen for 3 hours, there was a considerable amount of people who were clearly not able to run at that pace, because within hundreds of meters, first kilometre, there was people moving at a considerably slower pace. And I'm sure there's a reason the organiser would have that, whether they were celebrities or whatever put at the front. But there are people who believe that maybe they didn't be totally honest on what their predicted finish time is. I have seen other events where this does go on, but I'd say that's bad. That's not down to the organiser. I think it's down to the individuals. But I spent the first half of the marathon literally weaving through people. That's all I was doing, weaving past people. So I found that quite frustrating. But the thing that I found most frustrating, the ugly part, yeah, the ugly part of this event, aid stations. I mean, seriously, and I'm just going to say it how it is. It's the hard truth. You can agree or disagree. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. There are ways of making this better, but I believe it's not the organiser's fault, yeah? The cups, some people don't like cups, yeah? For me, I don't have an issue whether it's cups, bottles or whatever. Flying through, grabbing cups, I didn't see really any of that. But what I did see is an awful lot of people who literally get the cups, have a drink and just chuck it on the road. How hard is it when you've got bins all the way along the side? So you're picking up cups. There was drink stations at almost every aid station. It was left and right of the road. So whether you're going left or going right, there was water on both sides. There was bins, huge bins on both sides of the roads. So plenty of opportunity to put the cups into the bin like I did. I don't see what the issue is for people just drinking and throwing it on the floor. I just don't get it. Which, because of that, for me, I was having to navigate and watch my footing on every aid station, which shouldn't really be doing whilst I'm racing a marathon. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below. How would you improve the aid stations? Personally, and I've been in events where there are bottles and you get the same problem. People just drink the bottles and just drop it on the floor. They don't put it in the bins, and there's ample bins along the sides. Now, you can argue with me if you want. You could say, oh, there wasn't any bins where you were, but the purpose is you drink at the aid stations. You don't grab a bottle and then drink as you go along. If you want to do that, then have a backpack or something, because there's lots of people running with water backpacks because they want to drink and sip as they're going along. Do that, yeah? But certainly, the cups, I found in terms of, for me, for hydration, there was plenty of aid stations to hydrate in that temperature. It was plenty. And also for me, you would have seen that I do walk through the aid stations, and that didn't cause any issues. I am signaling to everybody, I'm coming in, and I'm walking. Nobody ran into the back of me. If you look at some of the clips, they all ran around me because they're looking where they're going, like good runners do. So nobody ran into the back of me. I didn't suddenly run along and I looked. I'm continually checking behind me, shouting, I'm coming to a stop here. So I checked that it was clear, and I'd often go to the aid station towards the end, not at the very front. Again, use some logistics, common sense. I know how it can be resolved, and it can be resolved, but at the end of the day, it's down to people being flexible, adaptable, and working with others. Isn't that the purpose of the event? Yeah, working with others. So that's the logistics. How did I actually get on? What was my strategy? What was I doing there? Yes. Ooh. Yes, for me, right, Berlin was my 5th star of 6 majors that I'm aiming for. The one that's left, the only one that's left, and often it's the most for most people, is Tokyo. Yeah, because it's the other side of the world and costs the most bucks. Yeah, and it's probably the most difficult to get in. So for me, all the 5 that I've done, I have time qualified for all 5 of those majors. So all these majors have good for age qualifying times, whatever nation you're from. I do appreciate London. It's UK based only athletes. I think there are other caveats as well for the super fast ones, but for me, I have the benefit both New York, Chicago, Boston and Berlin have time qualifiers for international athletes. So I think I mean, I've been time qualifying, even the time that I'd ran on the day is time qualifying for next year's Berlin Marathon, if I so wish to do. Yes, I ran it in an amazing time in 3 hours and 7 minutes. Now I could wax lyrical and say, where did that come from? Because in terms of the training, it was the most abysmal training block I'd ever had. But the thing for me is I don't beat myself up on a daily basis of things going wrong and things not happening or whatever. Yes, it was not the best way of preparing for the marathon, but I was completely underprepared, undertrained, and you know, the 3 hour was really a massive ask. I don't think it was ever going to happen. But I knew I could try something new, something different, experiment, because I don't get the opportunity to experiment very often. So I thought, let's give it a go and let's see. So my idea was to do basically a test on my body to run as much as I can. Thankfully, I did see some 3 hour paces on the other side of the carriageway, so I tried to keep them in sight. And then I was bumping into other athletes. Shout out to the Clapham Chasers who were running with me, 2 lovely ladies. They were going sub 3 and both of them finished sub 3, I think 2:58. So congratulations to you both, 2:57, 2:58. So I was running with those 2 for quite a while and they were negative splitting. So I did lose them after a certain point and I just couldn't keep up because they were negative splitting. I just could not keep that up. But for me, it was about holding a steady pace and to see at what point do I drop off the cliff. And when I drop off the cliff, what happens to my body when I do drop off the cliff? Yeah, now, what does that mean? In layman's terms, basically there is a certain point and it's not hitting the wall. I must stress, the only time I've ever hit the wall was during my first marathon where I went out really way too fast and didn't take on enough carbs, hadn't carb loaded properly, whatever. The glycogen drop. In this marathon, it was all about how long could I maintain and sustain and overcome the fatigue that was inevitably going to hit me. Because I'd only done one 20-mile training run and I struggled to run that in 2 hours 40, really struggled, and it was painful. And I managed around 3 to 4 16-mile runs at the tops, and they were painful and they were also tapering because I had issues with my back. If you've been following my training on Strava and also on the on my socials, Poet with Pace, and I think I did stress on some videos where, and I published on the socials as well here, I think, where I had a back issue. So it was about 5 weeks I lost of training where my speed was dropping. After about an hour 20 minutes of running, my speed would drop and I'd get a lot of pain around the hips and knee area and having to slow right down. So I knew there was something wrong. Turned out to be an issue with the L2 and L3 discs, and there was a slight trapment of nerve. Got that cleared with a chiropractor and then I was good to go. So for me, getting to the start of the race fit and fresh, I knew I was in with a chance. How much of a chance? Well, finishing in 3:07, it was up to around The last 10k is where it really started to drop, but I was able to sustain a particular pace, if you'd watched the video, of holding at a particular pace. Whilst I had fatigued, I had the strength and determination to keep going and keep going until I ran that time. Unfortunately, when I finished, yeah, you might have seen at the end of the video, it says 10 minutes later. Yeah, did you watch the full race day vlog? Go back to the race day vlog, watch it all the way through, and you'll see I'll just pause 10 minutes later. As soon as I crossed the line, you would have heard me before the finish line. I was making some comments, I feel like I'm going to faint.
Oh my Lord, oh, my legs don't want to move. I feel like I'm going to pass out any minute. Oh man.
Yeah, I really did feel like I was going to faint. So there was no last minute, X 100 yards, last kilometre push, picking up speed, which I can normally do. None of that. For me, it was making sure I kept myself in one piece and finished, because I would have hated to have collapsed before the finish line. So across the finish line, completely exhausted, left everything on the course. And because I came down on the floor, I hadn't passed out. The medics quickly came to me and had me down, lifting my legs up. And yeah, they attended to me and they were absolutely amazing. I was impressed. I felt like getting straight up, but they said, no, let's get you on the stretcher. So they put me on a stretcher and then wheeled me away from the finish area to ensure I was okay. So a big shout out to the medical team at the finish line. Thank you so much. I did get my bearings back, recovering very quickly, and you would have seen again after the start I was absolutely exhausted, but thankfully for me, taking on the food, drink at the finish area, they gave a bag and it had bananas, chocolates. I've never been at a marathon major that had so many goodies in the finishing goodie bag. I certainly don't recall that at either Boston, New York or Chicago, anything like that. But at Berlin, they gave me this, it was just a plain white bag with loads of stuff, and I literally shoveled it all in and recovered very quickly. I also had the good fortune of bumping into Lisa, who's the fashion jogger at the finish area. I think she's got 2.4 million followers on Instagram. I think she's got a lot here on YouTube as well. So it was lovely chatting to Lisa. And it was lovely bumping into Mark again, Mark Hatton. Great to see you, mate. First time I bumped into him was in Chicago Marathon at the Nike store of all places. And he was saying how much he enjoys watching my YouTubes. Amazing guy, ran all the majors, and I think he's going round again to run all the majors. So good luck to you, Mark. And so many others I got to chat to, recover. The whole day was almost a bit of a blur, and the way I finished the video, I didn't even know that the finish had finished type thing, or the video had finished, because I then went on back to the hotel, showered, carried on eating whatever. I even went to Checkpoint Charlie in the afternoon and had a look around doing some tourist things. There is going to be a video coming out of the tourist things I've done the following day, so keep an eye out for that. And for me, I found from the experiment of trying what I tried, yes, could I have ran a little bit slower than 3 hour pace? I could have probably finished in maybe a 3:03, a 3:05. But for me, basically the time was lost in the last 10k, where I lost about 5 minutes in the last 10k. So the fatigue had really set in. But considering, as I said, I only done one 20-mile run in the training block, and I struggled to finish that, I was fearful that, could I even come in, 3.5 hours, 4 hours? I didn't know what was going to happen. And yes, there was a comment, I think, on one of the YouTube videos where Donato would be lucky if he got under 3.5 hours. Well, thankfully for me, I don't read that's the kind of stuff, some people, haters are going to hate or whatever. But to be honest, I don't use that as incentive or whatever in terms of motivating me. I saw that after the event and I thought, well, what does that guy know? He knows nothing about my training, knows nothing about me. What I share on here is pretty minimal. I don't share my life, universe and everything. I mean, can you see, all family, friends, pictures and stuff? It's just myself. I share a little bit, and the running is just part of my life in terms of what I do. But I do appreciate you guys coming back time and time again watching these videos. I keep them simple. I know things have moved on. There's a lot of professional people out there producing amazing professional videos, which is great. Yeah, and but for me, it's still just me and a camera. Yeah, the camera's pointing at me. I've got no, sound mics or holding things up and talking to that. I don't really see the point of that, because I've got a boom mic on the camera. That's how it has been. It's worked years ago and it works now. It's the same with running. Running does not change. So for me, keeping it simple, keeping it basic. What's going to happen going forward? Well, I've got a number of key races coming up between now and the end of the year. I'll keep you posted on those. The first one I've got is the Great South Run 10 miler, where I'm looking to qualify for England Masters. And then there'll be a 10k and another 10 miler, I think, coming up. And maybe even there's a trail race coming up, which I'm looking forward to that as well. So it's winter months. For me, I tend to have it as more downtime, recovering, resting, doing some strength and conditioning, and just basically enjoying life and getting ready for next year, where it'll be a spring marathon. I've put my name in the hat for Good for Age for London Marathon. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to be doing in the autumn, but one thing has been decided. I always say, save the best till last, and you've stayed to the very end. So I'm going to let you in on some news you may have seen on my socials about this. Drum roll, please. Well, let me read to you what happened. Having ran the 3:07 time, I had no idea this thing happens, goes on, but it's almost decided. Let me have a flick through. Okay, right, I've got the email here. So I had an email from Abbott World Marathon Majors. I had two emails actually. One was to say congratulations on your 5th star. So thank you very much for that, Abbott. But the other one I got is congratulations, Donato. Your recent marathon result at BMW Berlin Marathon, September the 29th, 2024. Your finish time of 3:07:08 has achieved the World Championship qualifying standard. Yes, that's right. Ho ho! World qualifying standard. It's 3 hours 10, would you believe, for the 60 to 64. So that's still super fast time for the over 60s, yeah? But I got inside that by 3 minutes. Well, 2 minutes and 52 seconds if you're counting exactly, but we'll round it to 3 minutes. And guess where the World Championship race will be? Well, it'll be at none other than yes! New York, New York! That's right. In November the 2nd next year, I will be at the World Championship marathon race for my age group, having qualified in that time. How super cool is that? For me, that is the cherry on top of the cake. I had an absolutely amazing weekend. Met so many of you guys. Yeah, Ben Parks, Sarah Place. Oh man, Limerick runner. Oh, as I mentioned, my Matt. So many of you guys who aren't on social or whatever, but we're all having a chat. There's Rob and his wife, wonderful podcasters in the States. So many lovely people. And just chatting to so many, because I do love the social side of running, yeah? For me, running is more than videos and painting a rosy picture. Marathons are hard, yeah? If anyone paints you a nice rosy picture of marathons, or there's the other extreme where they paint it as it's like the end of the world, I do wonder why they do marathons if it's the end of the world for them. So whilst I had a tough time and fatiguing, I enjoyed it. Yes, I fell at the end, had to be stretchered away, but I didn't hospitalise myself, which I tend to try and monitor that and keep it under control. So I pushed myself to the absolute limit, and I just loved it. For me, it's about competing not just against myself, but competing and showing what we can do at whatever age we are. So For me, I am absolutely super proud of my time of 3:07 and 8 seconds. I think anyone of any age would be super proud of that time, whatever the training they've done, whether it's good, bad or indifferent. For me, having had such an awful training block, I think it's just a credit to myself of what can actually be done and achieved. So all that remains for me to say is thank you for staying to the very end and watching all the way through. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, your love, kindness and support, which has been going now for what's coming up to 9 years here on YouTube. I think February coming will be 9 years on YouTube. How about that, eh? And I'm still here. I ain't going anywhere. I love the fact that you guys are still here watching, sharing and spreading the word. So wherever you are, whatever you do, I always say keep on running, but be sure to share the joy of running. And above all, stay bossed in. Bye, bye, bye.
I'm the poet with pace, taking you to the heart of the race. So follow me now and I'll show you how to run with poise, panache, elegance and grace. Yeah. I like the way you move. I like the way you move. Let's keep moving.